Good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call our board meeting tonight at 5:30. If I could have everybody please rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Director Perkins is going to go ahead and read the land acknowledgement.
Evergreen Public Schools resides on the traditional lands of the Chinookan peoples and the Cowlitz tribe. They have lived on and cared for this land and its waterways since time immemorial. We thank them for their stewardship and make this acknowledgement to open a space of recognition, inclusion, and respect for all Indigenous students, families, and staff in our community.
Thank you. And Superintendent Boyd?
Yes, we want to start this tonight's meeting by acknowledging the horrible tragedy that occurred today at Texas, in Texas at Robb Elementary School. Our thoughts are with the families and of the 18 students and 3 adults who were killed in a senseless act of violence. Families send their children to school with the expectations that they are safe. It's heartbreaking when students don't return home. To our students, staff, and community, we know that these events can evoke strong emotions. We encourage people to reach out to family, friends, staff members, and other trained professionals to get the support needed. And collectively, we need to do better. We need to find a way to make sure this does not keep happening in our schools. And we can assure folks that our staff, our teachers, our principals, our counselors will be ready to support students as they enter our schoolhouses tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next on the agenda is to adopt tonight's agenda. Entertain a motion.
I move for adoption of the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and adopted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving forward. Tonight, we have special recognition, our Evergreen Awards, and I believe Janae Gomes is going to go ahead and present those tonight. Thank you, Janae.
Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. It's our Evergreen Awards. It's our final one for the school year. There are 3 categories. We have a group this evening, certificated and classified. We're going to start with our group. Senior Director of Facilities, Scott Eppinger, is going to come up. And he will introduce and talk about that central receiving and distribution for those employees, and we'll have them come in as well.
Thank you, Janae. Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Boyd. It's an honor to be here, not only with you, but also with this team behind me here. I'd like to introduce you to our team. These are the receivers and the drivers from Central Receiving. So John Melvin Nicholson, Josh Campbell, Dwayne Morgan, Shannon Dahl, and Kelly King. And so along with them, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. We have Vern Gager, who's out on vacation this week, and we have Nathan Hoyt, who couldn't be here tonight. So that's 7 people. We have a central receiving secretary and a central receiving lead. What's impressive about these folks is these are the folks that take care of 42 buildings in our district. So on a day-to-day basis, they're out in the buildings, providing supplies, the different things that support not only our buildings, but our staff, and most importantly, our students. And besides supporting the buildings on a daily basis, they've been instrumental in supporting the bond work that's gone on the last several years. Seems like quite a few years, but the last several years. And very instrumental in getting things out to those buildings in a timely manner. And they've been very instrumental in providing our PPE and COVID supplies to our buildings to keep our students and staff safe. So like I said, it's an honor to be here with them and for them to receive this award. There's a lot of unsung heroes in our district. This is one group of them, and I'm just very appreciative of the work that they do. I'd also like to recognize Sue Bukovac. Give us a wave, Sue. Appreciate her taking the time and her leadership at Central Receiving as our lead and taking the time to nominate this fine group of people and acknowledge their efforts. So thank you, and thank each of you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you for celebrating the group. Our next group is going to be classified celebration, and we are asking Lauren Bradley, who's a principal of Endeavor, and Angelina Yelverton is the associate principal, and they are going to recognize our classified recipient.
Good evening. How is everybody this evening? Thank you for inviting us to introduce Adriana Ramirez Reyes to you. Miss Adriana, as we lovingly call her, is our ELL paraprofessional who does so much more than what her job description reads. A big part of her job is translating for teachers, admin, parents, and students. She does it with skill, precision, compassion, and so much more. I'm going to move this a little bit. She does it because she always translates for us. We would like to honor Miss Adriana with presenting in Spanish, which is in her native language, as well as English. Our associate principal, Angelina Yelverton, will read in Spanish the letter that Arazu Rabanian wrote when she nominated Miss Adriana Ramirez Reyes for this prestigious award. When she is done, I will read it in English as well.
Thank you. Adriana es un gran miembro de nuestro equipo ELL en la escuela Endeavor. Ella constantemente muestra cuidado y apoyo a nuestros estudiantes y a sus familias. No le importa compartir su hora de almuerzo con ellos, escuchar lo que quieren compartir o quedarse después de un horario de trabajo para ayudar a una familia necesitada. También es un gran ejemplo a seguir para nuestros estudiantes gracias a que siempre tiene una actitud positiva y profesional. A veces pienso que es como una segunda mamá para nuestros pequeños. La forma en que interactúa con ellos muestra cuánto se preocupa por ellos. Quiere que hagan lo correcto y realmente se esfuerza por enseñarles no solo aspectos académicos, sino también cómo pueden ser grandes seres humanos en el futuro. Somos muy afortunados de tener una educadora como Adriana aquí en Endeavor. Ella no tiene miedo de abogar por nuestros estudiantes y ayudarlos a usar su voz. Por esas razones, creo que se merece un premio para demostrarle que vemos su arduo trabajo. Ojalá todos los niños pudieran tener una señora Adriana en su escuela. En nombre del Distrito Escolar Evergreen y el Hogar de los Grizzlies, nos enorgullece presentar el Premio Classified Evergreen para la primavera de 2022 a Adriana Ramirez Reyes.
I'm going to read it now in English and translate it just like you always translate for us. Adriana is a great member of our ELL team here at Endeavor Elementary School. She constantly shows care and support for our students and their families. She doesn't mind sharing her lunchtime with them, listening to what they want to share, or staying past her scheduled time to help a family in need. She is also a great role model to our students by always being positive and professional. Sometimes I think she is like a second mom to our little ones. The way that she interacts with them shows how much she cares for them. She wants them to do the right thing and really tries hard to teach them, not only academics, but also how they can be great human beings in the future. We are so fortunate that we have an educator like Adriana here at Endeavor. She is not afraid to advocate for her students and help them use their voice. For those reasons, I think she deserves an award to show her that we see her hard work. I wish every child could have a Miss Adriana at our school, at their school. On behalf of Evergreen School District and home of the Grizzlies, we are proud to present the Classified Evergreen Award for Spring 2022 to Adriana Ramirez Reyes. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Our final one this evening is certificated from Union High School, and Principal Griffin Payton is going to be presenting.
Good evening, Board of Directors, Superintendent Boyd, and our community members. My name is Griffin Payton, and I am the principal at Union High School. And I am very honored and just thrilled to be here with Shayla Pierce, who has been nominated and is receiving the Evergreen Award as a certificated employee. So I prepared a few words to say in regards to Shayla and just how grateful we are for her. So I just wanted to start by saying thank you and talk about why I have nominated you for this award. So on paper, Shayla is our SLC teacher. On my staffing sheet, that's what it says. It's working in our structured learning classroom, and that's a role that provides students in the special education program with a focus on social and behavioral needs, collaborative problem solving, and positive behavioral supports. And that's how Shayla appears on my staffing sheet and our master schedule, but she's so much more than that. And it's really difficult to really capture how much we appreciate her, but I'm going to try. First and foremost, Shayla is a champion for her students. There's nothing that will get in the way of her students being successful as long as she has anything to say or do about that. She is the absolute perfect blend of just tenacity and empathy for her students. And I can't think of anybody more suited to help the students that Shayla has the opportunity to serve at Union High School. Shayla is very active. She is always on the move. You're gonna have a difficult time finding her in one specific location because she is just out and about, always supporting her students and ensuring that they have what they need, reminding them of the skills and the abilities that they possess and that they can do this. And showing the care and compassion that's really necessary for all of us to do our job and for her students to be successful. When I think about how challenging the last couple of years have been with remote learning and everything, Shayla was actively just trying to figure out whatever she could do to best serve her students, knowing that change in structure would be really difficult for them. And she was the first to constantly say, what can I do? How can I get my students in here? How can I support my kids? And was really relentless in that pursuit. Her thoughts are always centered on getting students the support that they need and the structure that they've grown accustomed to. And the thing that I really appreciate about Shayla is that she doesn't see problems. she sees opportunities, whether that's with the students or at our school. On campus, you can always count on Shayla carrying 3 things: a radio, which is an absolute must and necessity for her, a smile, as you can see right here, and a tremendous heart for kids, which is probably the thing that we think about the most when we think about Shayla. Shayla, we're really lucky to have you as a staff member here at Union High School, and really fortunate that you're a member of the Evergreen School District. And on behalf of Union and everyone here in Evergreen, I just want to say thank you for being a Titan and for supporting our students, and just, I'm glad that your family can be here to be a part of that celebration. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the board consent agenda. Can I take a motion?
I move adoption of the board consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is the superintendent's consent agenda. Entertain a motion?
I move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is the superintendent's report.
Great, I'll be brief. Just a couple of things for the board. Remember to review the 2022 graduating senior list to identify any students you want to present a diploma cover to. And that's in your Friday bulletin from last week. We'll put it in again next week. Just a reminder also that our board leadership coaching is beginning, and so if you've haven't had the opportunity to look at the email that was sent related to sending out information so that people can do some rating, 360 rating of you. So that's something to pay attention. I have not done mine yet, but it's on my list to do. Also, there's been a lot of questions about budget enrollment from the board and others, and including myself. And so on our last board update, I did provide some information for you, and we're happy to do a more in-depth report on that if you choose as a future topic. But you can see that we'll be in kind of a consistent declining enrollment for the foreseeable future based on a very simple way of calculating it. So I'd encourage you to look at that, and we'll have more conversations coming about that. Also, strategic planning. I've met with consultant Dr. Tammy Campbell to discuss her serving to support us to actualize and implement our plan. And so I'm in the process of working with our communications team to begin putting the plan into a professional learning, professional format that we can proudly bring to the board in the near future. And then in addition, I'm consulting with Clarissa and Rebecca to ensure that the plan we roll out stays true to the work of the planning committee and is responsive to the community feedback, actionable, and has equity red-threaded throughout it in our plan as well. And with that, I think that's the end of my report for you today.
Thank you. Okay, we have a few items on the agenda for action. First is the essential health, 9 through 12. So this was presented at the last meeting for the first reading and approval to move forward to the second. There have not been any comments or questions since that last meeting. And unless we have any right now, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the curriculum Essential Health 9 through 12 for adoption.
I move approval of the Essential Health 9 through 12 as presented.
Seconded.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Next is the AP Biology second reading. Again, this was presented for first reading at the last board meeting and moved forward for second. There haven't been any comments or questions since the last board meeting, so unless there are some from the board, I'd like to entertain a motion, or I can entertain a motion for approval of the curriculum AP Biology for adoption.
I move for adoption of AP Biology.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We have that adopted. Awesome, wonderful, moving right along. Just go right through all these. Okay, next on the agenda is AP Physics 1 and 2, Algebra based. Again, was presented first reading, approved to forward for second. There have been no comments or questions since the last meeting. Unless there are some now, I entertain a motion to approve the curriculum recommendation, AP Physics 1 and 2, Algebra based.
I move adoption of AP Physics 1 and AP Physics 2 is presented to the board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, AP Physics 1 and 2 Algebra is approved. Next is the AP Physics with Calculus.
I move for adoption of AP Physics with Calculus.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and last on the list is the Inclusive Comprehensive Sexual Health Education, second reading.
I move for adoption of Inclusive Comprehensive Sexual Health Education.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are approved. Thank you. Next is our good news report. And I believe that Craig is going to present that for us. I didn't miss anything, right? Okay, perfect. She's on.
And that's
I have to tilt this down because of my height, vertically challenged. Thank you, as always. Enjoy sharing the good news with you, and we had a ton on this report. And I'm going to start with some of the events that we have had at schools. It's been great to see more and more events, in-person events, with our students being able to get unique education experience both in the schools and outside the schools. Image Elementary School held a very cool science night, but it just wasn't for the students. Families could come too. And they had what they called a Mad Science Group, which is a good thing. It's an enrichment services company that specializes in delivering educational and entertaining science experiences for the children. So that was a wonderful experience. We had, it's always great when our students get to go out in nature. It's also great when they get to beautify their own campus, and that's Pioneer Elementary School. They work with the City of Vancouver Urban Forestry Team to plant trees around Pioneer Elementary School. So not only did they learn about trees and what it takes to plant them correctly, but they'll be able to come back and years from now and see these trees and how they've helped beautify their school campus. This time of year, when the weather is great, our fun runs are awesome, and when it's not so great, they're still awesome, but we've had a lot of fun runs. They're called different things at different places. Riverview had some showers, but as you can see, it didn't stop the kids from really getting after it, and it's great to see the first lap. They're really, really fast, and then by the third lap, it's no longer a run, but it's still fun. Burnt Bridge Creek is another one of our schools, did something similar, and you could see they were pretty serious at the start. Field trips, which of course, always want to mention that these are supported by levy dollars, so thank everyone who supported our levy. Silver Star Elementary School went to the Water Resources Center. This was second graders with their principal on a field trip, and they got, basically it was a day to be a botanist, and they explored the gardens, and they learned about not just the plants in the garden, but the insects that live alongside the plant life. And I know some of you up here got to experience the Children's Culture Parade was back in person after a hiatus, which is also just a wonderful event. Our schools, along with Vancouver Public Schools, returned for this parade, and Superintendent Boyd was there, along with Board Member Rob Perkins and Board Member Victoria Bradford, and the weather did not look good the day before, but then it ended up being just okay, just perfect for this wonderful event. I wanted to go down and We had Cinco De Mayo this month, and Pioneer Elementary School celebrated Cinco De Mayo. They had a all-students assembly, and it included learning about Mexican culture and also some really wonderful music, and not just great music, but learning about how that music connects to the culture in Mexico and about the different instruments and what they were called and how they connected to Mexican culture. And then I'm sharing this story that I got to do that I was very happy to be able to do. And York Elementary School held their first ever Kiss Your Brain Day. And what this is a celebration of the brain and everything that it does for us. And the entire school from K to 5th grade had activities and lessons built around the brain. And this was inspired by a staff member at York that was recently, unfortunately, diagnosed with brain cancer. And one of the things that she shares on her own social media and with other staff members is to remember to kiss your brain, to remember how important our brain is and to celebrate it and all that it does. So I know Superintendent Boyd was able to go there on that day and experience it. And staff members all had T-shirts made up for this, and students wore gray because gray is aligned with May is Brain Cancer Awareness Month. So, and this won't be just a one year event. This is going to be part of the York culture going forward. So, really a great way to celebrate a staff member. It was a birthday gift for her. We actually did this, that day happened before her birthday on May 12th, and we held the story and the share until after her birthday so that they could kind of surprise her with it. And she mentioned how much it meant to her and that she felt a lot of love. So that was nice. And then finally, I think Julie had mentioned it last time, being able to see the pictures of all of our staff as we celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week. We did make sure to get out to every single one of our schools and celebrate our teachers at those schools. So well-deserved celebrations of what our fantastic teachers do every day. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. Okay. Next on the agenda is our equity and inclusion update, and I believe Jamila is going to give us this update this evening once Craig gets unattached.
I think she's bringing up her own computer, so I'm not helping you at all, Jamila.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I can't see it, so.
I'm gonna actually, it's okay, I got it. Thank you. All right. Is this stays up here too? Yeah. It does? Okay. Good evening. Hopefully everyone is well tonight. Thanks for having me here today. Am I connected? All right. So I'm actually going to just keep my notes up here in front of me. Oh, you know what? No, I didn't realize it. It's going to duplicate exactly as it's, can I extend the screen so I keep something separate on mine? Is that possible? Thank you. So I'll just start off by saying good afternoon, or I guess good evening. I'm Jamila Singleton, and for the community that's listening, I'm in here tonight for Clarissa, just presenting an update on our equity and inclusion work. And I will also say, I'm here tonight really representing the work of our equity advancement specialists. So Ashley Cooper, Charlotte Latte, there you go, thank you. Shannon Shambow and Carissa Heresy. And so, yeah, thank you. And so in doing so, I just want to make sure that I really honor that work comprehensively. And so thanks for being patient with me as I get myself organized here. And there we go. Thank you. Okay. So, first, I share this mantra with you, and this is a mantra that it's something that we created in the teaching, learning, and equity space. It's a couple dozen specialists that have been meeting over the last couple months to really talk about what's the future of this department and our work together. So this is across 5 teams. This is federal programs, special services, the equity inclusion team, curriculum and instruction, and our multilingual learners team. And so we came together and we really defined this as a way for us all to stay connected and grounded and what really matters for all of us. And so when I think about this, I want to just name that this represents what we hope for all of our students. And it's why all of us come to work every day, because we're really trying to ensure that we create a sense of belonging and a strong, inclusive environment, and that each of our students experiences success. I want to name that I have lost a bit of hope in the last month or so, as you can imagine. I think that losing and experiencing these role reductions for these incredible leaders who have been working across our system has been devastating. And it's taken me a bit to gather myself, because my biggest job here has been to clear the path for them to do their work, because they're pretty genius. And so here's a little bit about what that work looks like. So we have the multi-tiered systems of support, which I think we've talked a bit about from the teaching and learning updates, and that we're working to figure out what does it look like to create multi-tiered systems of support. So that circle has the 5 components. So we have evidence-based practices up at the top, continuum of support, family, student, community engagement, database decision-making, and team-driven leadership. And those blue items are areas that we've been working this year to trial. So for example, we have student affinity groups happening and Heritage Month celebrations. Charlotte Latte has been leading that. Unfortunately, yeah, thank you. Unfortunately, the leadership around that now is ending, and it's unclear how we're going to continue with that. Also, we have a whole set of database decision-making areas. So this is how we leverage our equity lens. We're looking at student survey data. We're looking at data analysis protocols and really trying to keep students at the center of our decision-making. And that is currently ending in the way that we have been envisioning it. In addition to that, we've had a whole set of paraeducator PDs that we've been doing to help make sure that all of our staff, classified and certificated, are developing the skill to support our students around the work around centering and isolating race and being able to support students. Ashley Cooper has been driving that. And again, so I just want to show you a little bit of like the impact with some specificity. And then finally, all of our equity team goes across schools to work on team-driven shared decision-making. And so we're trying to figure out how we move forward, trying to fill these gaps. Because we still need to be able to have an equity-focused, multi-tiered systems of support. And so I want to ask you for one thing tonight before we move much forward. I want you to think about what it looks like to restore and rebuild. I want you to really think about how we're going to address this, because we do still need to have these multi-tiered systems of support to get to belonging for all and success for each. So let's get grounded real quick in a little snapshot. And I think it's just important moving forward, if we're going to do equity updates, that we stay centered in some data. Equity is about outcomes, and we want to make sure that we address the disproportionality. So a couple things I'll point out. You can see attendance kind of over in the right. This is just general attendance. We're seeing our 5th grade snapshot. We see about 82% of our 5th graders are at about 82%, where they have 2 absences per month, or fewer than 2 absences. We see with our academic data, so we've got 20% of our 5th graders meeting standards in ELA and SBAC, and 7% meeting standard in math. With iReady, which is our kind of progress monitoring tool that we use to check how students are doing along the way, we can see that our white students, we have got I think 14% of them, let's just look at math, for example. So 14% are 14% are 3 grade levels or more behind. Double that for our Black students. So I'm naming this just to say, let's look at a quick snapshot. Let's get grounded in a 5th grade perspective. This is gonna be our class of 2029. So 7 years from now, once we make it through this moment, once we stare ourselves forward, we wanna think about what kind of outcomes do we want to be true for these students after this moment, and how are we gonna get there? So a little future framing on that. There's a little bit just to kind of remind us about CRP. So I wanna name that CRP really helps make sure we stay grounded in relationships and make sure that we are conscious of our bias, that we're conscious of our negative stereotypes that we bring into the profession, and that we really work to disrupt that. We also make sure that in the work around CRP, we're pursuing the learning partnership. So what this looks like after we're able to get in a closer relationship with kids, like how we support students to stay in class, that we're not pushing them out of class with exclusionary discipline, and that eventually we're able to get to a place of stronger achievement. And so the whole intention here with CRP is that we're able to, through more conscious relationships, stronger learning partnerships where there's a strong alliance, that we get to a place where we can unlock the intellectual capacity of all of our kids, but particularly our historically marginalized. There's some text here with the research that shows evidence of that. I'm happy to share this with you if you're interested there, but I just want to continue to reground us in like how we're trying to take that approach in this work. And so thinking about the class of 2029, right? They are going to be facing a whole set of realities, things that we've probably been dealing with in our society, possibly new problems that we haven't even imagined yet. And so we want to get to a place with our students, and this is what the work of CRP, or culturally responsive teaching, is pursuing, is that we're getting to a place where we move from dependent learners who are unsure how to tackle tasks, require lots of scaffolding, to independent learners who can really get into the work, have the cognitive strategies, feel the sense of confidence, not have the sense of stereotype threat, experiencing microaggressions in class, where they can really be in class learning and growing and being successful. So there's 3 learning questions I want to name here, and this is something that I've been trying to think about, like how we move forward and how we build capacity to deal with this reality of, we saw the student snapshot of our 5th graders as one snapshot in the system, and how we build a capacity to deal with that. And so I'm put these questions in front of us as a way to think about this. You might see some familiar language. Hopefully you recognize it. So we've got the operational expectation around equity. So the first question is, what tools and plans can school buildings generate that support school improvement plans that foster, create, and support learning environments where teachers, staff, and administrators are consciously working to counter and eliminate the impacts of racism, discrimination, trauma, bias, and unconscious bias in their interactions with students and their decisions which directly impact students. So we see elements of that database decision-making in there. We see elements of how we do this in a more conscious way. And all of this is connected to the school improvement process. And you can probably see that in that category, in the structure, is in equity teams. So that's one possibility. The second is that we are better leveraging our equity lens. So this goes to the operational expectations, equity point 3 and point 5. So how do we identify opportunities and resources and supports for our students while considering factors such as race, ethnicity, culture, ability, gender identity or expression, sexual orientation, religion, national origin, native language, housing status, or level of affluence? So what are we doing to identify the actual supports at the student level? So if you think about that circle, it's like all those evidence-based practices and the continuum of supports, and how do we use the equity lens to do that? And then the second question in that category is, how do we remove the barriers that we're identifying in the student experience. So the third section here is our protocol. So that's the Courageous Conversations About Race protocol. So how do the effective use of this Courageous Conversations About Race tools, such as the agreements, the compass, and the conditions, permit and support robust conversations around controversies among and between staff members and category and students? So there are really three prongs to this, right? Where if we're going to move forward, we have to think about how we're going to build equity teams. We need to think about how we're going to use the equity lens in the way that we're producing our supports and resources for our students, and how we're identifying the barriers that are getting in the way of their success with our curriculum, with our instruction, with all of our programs across our system. And then finally, how we make sure that there's more capacity in our system to use the CCAR tools so that we're having more in-depth conversations. And so in order for us to move this forward, we have to have a really intensive leadership development model in this district. So there's 3 phases of this. The first phase is that we're building an equity team PLC. So we need to have a monthly PLC where a leader is identified in each school, and in each school, they're able to go through something called the equity transformation cycle. And through that cycle, we're able to use that data to help disrupt the bias that's present in some of the decision-making in that building. The second phase is that we're having a summer intensive. So we would like to host a 5-day, half-day summer intensive experience where admin and teachers, and this includes both people in building as well as folks in ASC, who can opt in for a daily intensive to really learn how to put the equity lens into application through case studies, examples, tools, and really practice-based learning. And then the third is a cohort series. We've identified, I want to say like 10 role groups, everything from athletic directors to assistant principals, and all of those role-specific cohorts will engage in varied levels of comprehension or application or analysis development. So they'll have like a beginning or an intermediate experience, but those are role-specific cohorts where they'll meet so that they can develop that capacity. It feels pretty essential that we have capacity builders across our system. So this is a decentralized approach where we can really make sure that we're living towards this aspiration of getting to belonging for all and success for each. So I'll leave us with this. I love this quote. It's out of Ready for Rigor, out of Culturally Responsive Teaching. This is Rita Pearson. She also has a TED Talk if you're interested in seeing her talk about what it looks like. But every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection, and insists they become the best they can possibly be. I think that the work that we're doing here in this district, obviously, is tough work. We all signed up to be educators, and it's not an easy task. And at the same time, there's a way to educate students where we're a champion for them. And I really hope that we can create a system where we have the capacity to really insist that students from all backgrounds, racial backgrounds, gender identity backgrounds, sexuality, homeless or in transition or not, but we insist excellence from all of our students and that we really support them to get there. And so in order to do that, we need to do some more work to build a capacity to get there. And so I just want to bring us back to this, that this is really something that Teaching, Learning, and Equity feels committed to. And I also want to bring us back to this reality, that we've got to make some tough choices today and ongoing from here about what we're going to do to make sure that we don't just leave these gaps. Because if we leave these gaps, kids will be in the gap. So, any questions?
Thank you. I am interested in the research. Please go ahead and email it to me whenever you can.
I will.
I would like to have a copy of this.
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
We all would.
Yeah.
Appreciate your work on this. I know it wasn't easy, so thank you.
Sure. All right.
Thank you, Jamila. Okay, next on the agenda is comments by the school board. However, this evening, we will be skipping through comments by the school board and moving on to provide more time for citizen comments. So the next item on the agenda is our future agenda items. Does anybody have anything? Nope, okay. I don't have anything to add, but did want to make a quick note that we are going to put a hold on our instructional applications at the moment, and we'll be recontacting the applicants. We're going to actually revamp that application a little bit more and just need to have another question answered. So we will be in touch on those.
That's the IMC?
Yes, the IMC, the group, yeah, applications, yes. Okay, so next is our citizens' comments. So any citizen wishing to address the board may do so during this designated time, as long as the comments are not personnel related or about an individual employee or student and are not legal in nature. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. Comments are to be directed to the board of directors as a whole and may not be addressed to any individual member of the board, the administrative staff, or the audience. A reminder bell will ring when you are when you have 30 seconds left on your time. We have a lot of people signed up tonight, so we just want to make sure that everybody is respectful of that 3 minutes. And so we will be just ringing a bell to let you know when your time is almost up, because we realize not everybody's looking at the time. So with that, we will begin first on the list, and I will apologize to everybody in advance if I mess up your name. It is not on purpose, so please forgive me. First is Tiffany Randau, and I believe she's online. Okay, hold on one second.
All right. Am I good to go?
You're on, Tiffany. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Good evening, board members. My name is Tiffany Riendo, and I'm the instructional coach at Mountain View High School and a member of the Equity Advisory Committee and co-leader of the White Affinity Group, which I'd like to extend each of you who identify as white an invitation to attend our June 7th meeting. The last board meeting, I came before you to plead for you to reinstate our equity advancement specialists because our data so clearly shows a need for them. During that first 3 minutes, I made assumptions that you and everyone who heard this speech would know some things about my core beliefs. Upon reflection, I'm not sure that was clear. And today I'd like to continue to ask for the reinstatement of equity advancement specialists and communicate clearly the values I hold. When I spoke about predictable outcomes at MVHS in areas like discipline, achievement, AP enrollment, and belonging, I neglected to elevate the work of our teachers at Mountain View, who are already doing so much to ensure all kids are successful. I'm honored to support my colleagues in work that started before me and will continue after me. I believe every adult at Mountain View cares deeply for children, all kids, the ones who look like them and sound like them and share their interests, and the ones that don't. I believe many teachers at Mountain View have invested hours of time outside their contract to learn and implement curriculum that's culturally responsive. I believe teachers in the last few years have adopted equitable grading practices in their rooms. I believe teachers are engaging wholeheartedly in best practices like co-teaching and inclusion and sheltered instruction and restorative practices, and that staff at Mountain View have gone out of their way to create welcoming spaces for students. And I have the honor of working with those amazing people, from the admin to the certificated staff to the classified staff. Our teachers wrote belief letters last August, and every single one talks about caring for kids and believing in all students' ability to learn and be successful. We're working our tails off to close achievement and opportunity gaps. We're listening to kids and we're adapting instruction. And yet, predictable outcomes still exist at Mountain View. Even when my teachers are working at full capacity and with full hearts, doing everything they know how to do, our data shows disparities. Students of color are still not given enough to overcome the educational barriers in front of them. And the data is clear. It isn't enough for our school board to ask teachers to end the predictability of outcomes by demographic group. We need systems change and system support to do this work. Systemic inequality, which is the cause of the data I shared last time, isn't solved by teachers in their rooms by themselves, and they can't do it alone. They already care and they already work, and if they already work hard, and we still haven't fixed it. The disparity in outcomes I shared last time are systemic issues that can't be fixed without systemic support, and that support is coming from our equity advancement specialists. We need them because teacher burnout is at an all-time high, and we're asking teachers to do all the work without any supports. We need a systemic fix for a systemic problem, and we need the resources, the coaching, and the student voice collection, the data examination, and the solution expertise that these employees bring us. We need them to use equity lens to inspect systems level work like master schedules, course catalogs, forecasting, discipline, and MTSS systems. We need them in schools supporting teachers in the work they're already engaged in, giving teachers and coaches tools, curricular resources, and coaching opportunities to remove barriers that still exist in classrooms. We're in this work together, but we need some experts. We need folks who have the job of searching for and finding the barriers in our big school systems and in our smaller working spaces like classrooms and ISS rooms. To speak personally, because I am white, like most of EPS staff, I've missed a lot of barriers in my time both as a teacher and a coach. I haven't served students of color because I didn't have the resources and experts helping me see new perspectives. I need Carissa and the other specialists to ask me the right questions, bring the right data, and help me see what I'm blind to. It's vital to my work, and it's vital to all our work.
Thank you, Tiffany. Okay, next on the list is Sierra Gerber. No? Sierra Gerber? Nope. Okay. Reese Forbes?
Sorry. I need to, oh, give her. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Reyes Forbes, and I'm a non-binary and autistic student in the Evergreen Public Schools. I'm here because it has come to my and other students' attention that the Equity and Inclusion Department has recently had its employment cut down to a shockingly low number of people. Our concern is that making cuts in this department, the well-being and safety of marginalized students and staff in the district, such as myself, will be endangered, as well as the intentions and interests of the people in charge of this decision. In our opinion, the employment cuts in the Equity and Inclusion Department were, at best, an unintended consequence of school policy that shows the district's disregard for the safety of marginalized students, and at worst, an intentional decision by people who don't want to face the consequences for their discriminatory actions under the guise of budget cuts. But even so, why do we need the Equity Department? Discrimination in the district can't be that bad, and people won't be shielded from discrimination their whole lives. School is supposed to prepare you for the real world, and people are discriminatory. Well, recently, a friend of mine was a victim of anti-LGBTQ bigotry and harassment by another student. The most punishment that the student got was a 2-week suspension from school. Their suspension has passed, and they are now back in school. The student showed no sign of remorse for their actions and will likely continue to discriminate against and harass queer students in their school. As for me, I had to fight my way through the year to get permission to use the visitor bathrooms at my school as opposed to the bathroom in the nurse's office, which is the only student-accessible gender-neutral bathroom in the school. While this is better than using the bathroom in the nurse's office, I still have to walk up and down up to 3 flights of stairs just to use the restroom comfortably, while my cisgender classmates have gendered bathrooms on every floor. And yes, discrimination is a real thing in the real world, but telling marginalized people to get used to it because that's just the way things are isn't going to help. People, especially students who are preparing to live in the world on their own, need to know that you need to advocate for yourself against discrimination. School should be a place to learn, not to feel unsafe. I've collected over 6 full pages of signatures from students across the district who think the defunding of the Equity Department puts marginalized students and staff in danger. This decision won't go unnoticed by the students of Evergreen Public Schools. For all the talk of we care about student voices that I've heard from the district, I had no idea that I could do what I'm doing now before my mom told me. Thank you. The fact that students aren't told that they can speak up or how makes me think that the district doesn't actually care about the concerns of students. I think I speak for all of the students in the district when I say that the district seems to have a serious disregard for the well-being, safety, and concerns of students. Whether intentional or not, this is an attack on the diversity of students and staff in our schools. We ask for the Equity Department to be reinstated and to be protected from budget cuts in future because, and if only for selfish reasons, because when the well-being of students goes up, so do their grades and so does your funding. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
John? I thought I heard the student say Reyes, right? Yeah, I thought I heard her say that she had signatures from students. Do we have that document? I'm sorry? I apologize. I am so sorry. They. Then I'll try to do better. If you could get that document to us, that would be nice. Thank you for the correction.
Thank you, Rob. All right, next is Adam Aguilera.
Good evening, Evergreen School Board and Superintendent. I first want to acknowledge today the families that are grieving in Texas right now of an 18-year-old high school student who went to a neighboring elementary and shot and killed over a dozen elementary students and teachers as well. Right after, we just experienced a mass shooting again in Buffalo, New York, where an 18-year-old who had threatened their high school the year before when they were a senior in high school intentionally shot and killed 10 Black Americans at a grocery store. More than ever, we have a need for equity in our schools. And what has been particularly disturbing about this pattern of events of youth in our high schools that are engaging in this mass violence is that I too have experienced our school where I teach as a middle school language arts teacher, that my school was threatened this year. That I've had two students removed from my classroom this year for horrific slurs that they had perpetuated against myself as an educator. And in our classroom communities, in our school buildings, right here in Evergreen, we have students and staff who do not feel safe on campuses. And I think the student who just eloquently spoke to the reality of what is happening right now in our schools as we have come back to be in in-person instruction during the pandemic. We cannot cut our equity advancement specialists. We can't. It is a liability to the school district. What is happening right now all over this country, our students and our staff are at risk of a variety of different factors. And what I was so impressed in tonight's equity update presentation was the work that had been done over this past year. And then to see it say ending, 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 ending. Because the school district has decided that they are not going to fund this priority when the funds are there, because there's HB 1590 that was passed by the legislature this year that provides 50% of student enrollment lost to enrollment decline. There is unspent ESSER funds in this school district that can be applied towards restoring these positions. There's retirement and leaves that continue to happen throughout the days ahead that will allow the district to save money to keep the provisional educators and staffing that we have. And there is also still reserve funds that can be applied in this manner as well for the very small balance that is left to make sure that our students and staff are being served by highly qualified, highly trained educators who serve in these equity advancement specialists. please reconsider your decision in this matter.
Okay, next on the list is Keisha Brown.
My name is Keisha Brown.
Thank you.
I am the parent of 2 Evergreen students, ages 8 and 10. One's at soccer. I am an employee of 14 years, and I have taught 1st, 4th, 3rd, and now 7th grades. I've spoken to you several times before, most recently just a couple of weeks ago. That was a frustrating meeting, after which I had to try to explain to my daughter what we had just watched. Charlotte called it racism. In the car on the way home, I told my daughter, this is what white supremacy in an organization looks like. It looks like the tears of a woman who has sat on this board for much longer than I have been teaching. It looks like the cool, calm faces of a school board that has come to think that they know best, only to find themselves embroiled in one catastrophe after another. It sounds like the white leaders using polity to further their own agendas, making deals behind closed doors, and then claiming that this is just the way it is, and there's nothing that we can do. I asked at the last meeting how many jobs could be saved if the district offered job sharing. If we are leaving no stones unturned, if we're doing everything we can, then surely someone ran the numbers. I did a little homework myself, and I found in our CBA that job sharing is specifically identified as an option for Evergreen employees. Page 47, job sharing. For the purpose of this agreement, job sharing shall mean the occupation of a single staff position by 2 individuals, with each assignment being half-time. The district may grant requests to job share. The district shall establish the daily job schedule for the job sharing team. The district may terminate job sharing arrangements at any time after completion of each year. What an amazing opportunity that would have been for me after some of the hardest years of my career. And I would venture I am not alone in that sentiment. I love teaching, and I am a better teacher when I take care of myself. And I need time and space to do that. I have 2 young children at home who need me to have some patience and empathy left at the end of the day. And I know enough about mental health, self-care, and working with trauma to know that I have limits that need to be respected. Unfortunately, I have no more faith in this board. I am not here to ask for your support in convincing our district leaders to make the right or even better decisions. Instead, I am here to challenge you, as I believe a good challenge can be both inspiring and motivational. So here's my challenge to each of you who have been here for more than a year. Resign. Step down and let our community find its new leaders. It is time. Please resign.
Next on the list is Charlotte Latte. I think I said that wrong, Latte. And I know I said your last name wrong. I apologize.
Okay. Silent R in there. Charlotte Latte. She, her, hers. My dad is from Ghana, and in Ghana, lattes like Smith or Johnson. I know we spoke a few weeks ago, and there are some questions that haven't been answered, and I feel like I don't know that there's anything that I really could say. Like, I'm not sure whose mind needs to be swayed one way or another. You know, like I feel like we're all on the same page about how essential our work has been. There's a question I think that our department has asked since we started, even before the school year started, and that's how are the children. We've asked that question all year because we prioritize the wellness of our children, and we recognize the wellness of our children is the wellness of our community. And we can tell you the children are not well. I think you've heard it from students, you've heard it from staff, you've heard it from parents. It's been an extremely trying year. We've seen bullying from students that have never had problems getting along with other students. We've seen an increase in discipline, so many signs from our students that they're not well. And I think our team has particularly been very responsive because we are the liaison between the schools and the district. We are the TOSAs, the teachers that are going to the schools to make sure the staff are well, to make sure that the students' needs are met, to inquire about what the needs are. We could tell you, what the students need, but it's insulting that we haven't been asked. It was decided that our jobs aren't essential without even bothering to try to understand what our jobs are. And how student-centered, student-driven our jobs are, our why is so clear. I think it's clearer naturally than any other department because it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. I read in the Columbian that district leaders will be meeting with the Evergreen Association to talk about how to ensure future retainment of educators of color. And I think that's great, but I also think there's a choice that needs to be made that you can make, and it doesn't have to be this. There's 3 of us that are being cut. I'm pretty sure we paid more from the superintendent out of his contract than the 3 of us teachers' salaries. So that's a choice. We're asking you to make it. Thank you.
Next is Joanne Shepard.
Hello, good evening. Hi to everybody in the back. Hello, hello. I am an educator who lives on this side of the river, but I work in Portland Public Schools, actually. I'm a first grade teacher. I've been an employee of PPS for about 7 years now. I am also the luckiest lady in the world because I am Charlotte Latte's fiance. And when she got hired in Evergreen, I was so jealous because I've had my eye on Evergreen Public Schools. Y'all got nice buildings. Y'all got new buildings. The salary is so good. If I worked here today, I would be making $10,000 more than I do right now. I have been mentally preparing. I'm like, all right, Charlotte's here, we live here, it's my time. It's my time to come over to Evergreen, right? I want to be here. I want to be invested in this community. But as I have gotten more involved and more invested and learned more, I'm worried that my values don't line up with Evergreen's values. I care strongly and deeply about racial justice. And this year, I became a Racial Justice Institute Fellow, which is a program through the Oregon Department of Education. And, every month I go to these meetings, we learn about racial justice, we have plans, we implement them in our schools, and it's an amazing program. And I would be giving that up if I came here, and I would also be knowingly walking into a district that says they believe in equity, but the actions don't line up with that. And for myself, I just can't do that. I just can't willingly sign up to be here, even though I'd make more money, even though the schools are nicer, even though you have more supports for your students than PPS does in a lot of ways. So I'm gonna still make the commute across the river, and I hope to someday be here. I really do. But right now, I cannot give up my values to be here. And I would just like to say also in closing, I know we're not supposed to speak to the individuals, but ma'am, God bless you. I hope you are well, and I hope you have community. Thank you.
Next is Christy Peak.
Hi, I'm Christy Peak, teacher librarian at Mill Plain Elementary. We at schools are always told we make all of our decisions in the best interest of kids until we don't. After bus routes, lunchroom availability, standardized testing, more testing, budget constraints, myriad other considerations that define the boundaries of where, when, and what we can do for kids. Finally, we ask, what would be in the best interest of students? We know the best thing for students is and always has been the guidance, connection, and caring demands of highly qualified teachers. Now, after the pandemic has disrupted their lives, brought grief and trauma, and separated students from in-person learning, for some students, that has been the most constant environment they know. It is more important than it has ever been before. And we realize that despite our best intentions and our best hope for our students, these constraints are very real, and many are out of your control. But what is in your control is carefully discerning which budget line items are medicine and which are dessert, and making intentional decisions for what is truly in the best interest of students. You must do. And having educators in front of students is medicine. And so again, I'm here tonight to ask you to make decisions in the best interest of students. Thank you.
Excuse me. Next is Jennifer Bradley. Lori, do we have a Jennifer Bradley online?
I have a Jay Bradley online.
Possibly. Okay.
Hi, this is Jenny Bradley. Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead, Jenny.
Oh, great. Thank you. My name is Jenny Bradley. I live on 30th in Vancouver. I'm an elementary school teacher, and I'm speaking tonight to implore the board, the superintendent, the CFO, and the financial decision makers to please closely and carefully re-examine our budget and propose budget cuts to prioritize funding that is more aligned with our stated values as a district and a community. There's a saying, don't tell me your values, show me your budget, and I will tell you your values. The budget cuts, particularly to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department, do not reflect the values of the superintendent, the values that the superintendent, Evergreen Public Schools, members of this board publicly profess in these meetings, in interviews, on our website, in district documents, and much more. As others have noted, although cuts must be made, we understand that, the money is there. We need you, our financial decision makers, to prioritize it. I ask that the financial decision makers many of whom are in the room, and you are the ultimate decision makers on this matter. You do have the power regarding these outcomes. I ask that you seriously and sincerely re-examine the entire budget, but particularly the proposed cuts to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department. And I ask that you do that through EPS's own equity lens, which reads in part, I won't read the whole thing to you, but you can find it online, but which reads in part, describe proposed action, desired outcomes, results, and connection to the EPS equity vision, which is to be a diverse and inclusive community of schools that provide each member with the opportunities, access, resources, and supports they need to be successful. What beliefs, values, and assumptions guide the topic that's being considered? What information and data are you basing your decisions and actions on? Articulate how you have intentionally involved stakeholders who are also members of the communities affected by this policy, program, practice, or decision. Is there stakeholder support or opposition to the proposal? Why? Explain how the proposed action expands opportunity for equity and social justice for marginalized communities. Who are the demographic groups affected? How will each group be impacted and affected by the decision or action? Explain how proposed action addresses barriers to equitable outcomes. How will you track the progress towards reducing disparities? Are there any potential unintended consequences for specific groups or populations? And are there strategies in place to mitigate negative impacts? If we examine these decisions and cuts through EPS's own equity lens, it's very clear that we need to do better and put the money where our mouths are and walk the walk and not just talk the talk, and show our commitment to diversity and equity and inclusion in our budget and financial decisions, not just empty words that are not supported by actions and substance. Please make budget cuts and decisions that reflect our values and prioritize safe, equitable schools. Thank you.
Next is Charity Smith.
Hi, my name is Charity. This is my son Adonis.
Do you actually mind going up to the mic just so that our community online can hear you? Thank you.
My son Adonis, he completed preschool today. He's going to start kindergarten at Evergreen, and we wanted to propose a district line boundary redistribution to include our neighborhood. I emailed you a PowerPoint, but I also brought a visual, so let me see if I can just show you. You want help with that? It's okay. Basically, our neighborhood is here. We're a small subdivision. We have about 107 houses. I've got signatures from several of our neighbors. This is our house, and this is Image. And right now, all of our kids from our neighborhood go to Orchards, which is down past, I'm sorry, I'm really nervous, down past Lowe's, behind, it's over 2 miles away, or 1.3 miles away. So we just wanted to propose that the district line is changed. Sorry, I'm so nervous. So he can go to Image Elementary with his friends from the neighborhood and ride the bus. And yeah, that's basically what we are suggesting. Image. Thank you. Also, it's a new school. We watched it be built. We play there. We've talked about him getting ready for kindergarten. And so, yeah, we can hear the kids playing when we're on our front porch, and we would just love to go there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
I know, he's so cute. Next is Stephen Houston.
No, I didn't plan that. This might be easier. Hi, my name's Steve Houston. Thank you for letting me comment on here. Last year in August, I retired, and I was trying to find out what I was going to do the rest of my life. And I knew I was not going to go play golf, but I had heard that the schools need help somehow, whatever that is. So I thought, well, maybe I'll go ahead and volunteer. So I signed up to be a volunteer, got vetted, real excited, and got a letter from someone saying that you are now vetted for, and I had to pick Riverview, Mountain View and Y East are all close to me, so I said, okay, I'll pick those. And I waited eagerly to hear from them saying how I could help. Didn't hear anything. So then COVID, unfortunately, the Delta variant came in, no volunteers. Okay, fine, we'll wait a little bit. Then around November or so, I got a little frustrated and saying, well, maybe I ought to be a little bit more proactive. So I went and knocked on Riverview's doors and said, yes, here I am. I'm vetted. I'm legitimate. And anyway, eventually, January or so, I hooked up with a second grade teacher, and I go weekly. I read them a story, but more importantly, they read to me. And we've had a wonderful relationship with that. That's been fun. I knocked on the door. I had a knock on the door for Y East. They asked me to be an emergency substitute teacher right away. No, not exactly interested quite in that. But anyway, I eventually got hooked up with a 6th grade teacher, and I go into 2 of her math classes. My existence there is basically to help the students when they are doing fractions or adding decimals or whatever they're doing. She runs a show. That's been very good, very eye-opening too. I also knocked on the door of the high school, Mountain View, and they didn't know what to do with me. I am kind of an odd duck that way. Eventually they had an after-school program that I helped out with briefly, but that ended because of poor student participation. So I guess my point in relaying my experiences is that there doesn't seem to be any way that someone who doesn't have any children anymore in the school district can assist in helping in this. I got a master's degree in statistics, and I got a bachelor's in civil engineering. I've been using stats and numbers all my adult life. And so, gee whiz, folks, I can help with this. But again, I don't want to bring up budgets and personnel. I naively thought that, there would be somebody, the volunteer coordinator, who would have, here's the schools, here's what we need to have, and then they would, hey, can you come here and volunteer? So I don't know how you would solve this, but something like this, I may be a sample of size 1, okay? I may be the only person like this, but I would like to think there may be other folks out there who would want to do something to help and continue at least keeping their brain going for as long as they can. I've got this on I don't know if I should send this to you on an email or something. I didn't know where, so I just give it to you. Okay, fine. Anyway, I don't know if you have any questions or anything, or...
Thank you.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you for volunteering.
Okay, next on the list is Amy Mitchett. That one I'm afraid I messed up, and I'm really sorry. Okay.
Hi, I'm kind of nervous. Sorry, I've never done this before, but I got Maggie, the art teacher, I got Diana, the social studies teacher, and I got Liz, the counselor. My name's Amy Miche. I'm the Dean of Students at Covington Middle School. I want to just say the reason why this guy didn't get any phone calls back, I think, because I work in a school, everybody is so busy and doing all of the things in the world, and so keep this in mind as I go on with this. So the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department reducing their staff is a step in the wrong direction. Here's why. We've gained so much momentum with combating, it's obvious we have inequitable policies and practices, and even more obvious are outcomes. I can say this fully because I'm the Dean of Students, and I'm part of this. And so some of the meaningful and crucial action items that Charlotte and the rest of the crew have helped us with at our particular school: partnering regularly with admin to widen our lens of equity, facilitating and administering Covington's first ever Black student union, an affinity group for students who are Black, collaborating to create a sense of belonging through lessons that were taught to all of our students, Tier 1, fancy teacher lingo, 6-week cycle, providing professional development for teachers, collecting feedback from staff to determine what's working, what is not. Something that, to go back to the guy that just went before me, there's no way we would ever have the capability to do that as Look at, we're here tonight. We're mean well, but we're really busy. So we have not even scratched the surface. This is so new, this group, this department, and there's no way in the world that we can keep this level of support going without the staffing that currently exists this year. And I would say, why not? We need more. You've heard from students, you've heard from the family members, you've heard from the community members. It sounds like we need a lot of help, and I'm sure you all have your backs up against the wall with like decisions on budget. I don't get it, but I can imagine. So I know you're not making these decisions so lightly, but I'm asking you guys all to reconsider, figure out how to keep these positions available for our 25,000 students that attend Evergreen Public Schools. We need to get creative with our resources. I can't imagine keeping going at the current pace that we're at this year with the work that we are doing with this department compared to what it'll be like next year. It's just like, it makes me want to cry. So, yeah, I hope that you can reconsider the decision that was made. Thank you.
It sounds like she's dropping the mic, but she's not.
Okay, next on the list, and I apologize in advance because I'm really afraid of this one. Kimra Hamblin, I'm so sorry.
Good evening. My name is Kimmer Hamlin, and I am an educator of the Evergreen School District. I have here Gina. She's a paraeducator for our school, and I have Jana here to support. This is I'm a little nervous because I think when you speak up, sometimes it doesn't feel good, but I must just go ahead and stand on it and just am I messing it up? Okay. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and read off what I have wrote down. I come here today as a Black educator of the Evergreen School District that supported the equity team movement. As an educator, it felt as if I was accepted. And at that school, with the school district, I felt like you cared enough when there was this equity movement started. What I've learned in my years of teaching here or at the school district, the students, when they saw me seeing students that looked like me, they felt accepted. My classroom, I wanted to change the narrative of what they thought of people of color, that they don't have to have fear, they're gonna have to feel safe. And I will say, and I'm not trying to boast myself up, but my classroom is one of the tight-knitted classrooms, and they all feel safe. I can now change the color. I cannot change the color of my skin, and neither can those students that are in your school district. So why eliminate an entire department that has the ability to support those that cannot protect themselves? What I will say is Clarissa showed up at a time of that was needed in my school, that a student was denied a scholarship due to the fact of a certain teacher did not like them. I fought. And when I tell you that student today is actually a successful hairdresser just because she was owed that. Okay, so with this department is needed. Everybody needs it. It is needed. I felt accepted. I do want to say one thing. I was looking at quotes that kind of moved me. It was from Martin Luther King, and it says, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." So I'm not being silent no more. And you should be there. Thank you. You guys want to say something?
That was the last person that was signed up. I just want to say thank you to everyone who shared comments this evening and addressed the board and spoke up for your fellow coworkers and community members. I know it's not always easy to stand in front of us and speak, but thank you. Okay, so it is 7:01, and we are going to go into a recess to sign documents and return for a workshop to discuss comprehensive school counseling programs transition plan, have a legislative update, followed by a closed session and an executive session to review the performance of a public employee expected to last approximately 1 hour. That concludes this portion of tonight's meeting. Thank you for coming. Okay, we're going to go ahead and bring the meeting back to order and begin our workshop. And our first item is our comprehensive school counseling program transition plan. Thank you for
Hello.
joining us.
Thank you, board. My name is Casey Lyons. I'm the coordinator of social emotional learning for our district. And I have here this document that I believe was shared with you on Friday. I added a little definition of what a comprehensive school counseling program is for our time together this evening. Basically, there was SB 5030 requires that all school districts have a comprehensive school counseling program transition plan for next school year and ready to roll out the whole thing the following year. So this document here, it starts with the components of the transition plan and our desired goals for the end of next school year. And then it is followed by really a timeline of the activities that our counselors and social workers would be completing in order to have comprehensive school counseling programs in place and fully functioning moving forward with the 23-24 school year. So I guess I'll ask for questions. I can scroll through if you want. We do have support. We are working with ASCA, which is basically the model, the company that, or the organization, the American School Counselor Association, that has created this national model of comprehensive school counseling programs. So we are getting their support. We've had 2 full-day trainings with them this year, and we'll have 4 next year. And then in between those 4 trainings, I will be supporting our counselors and social workers, creating all of these components as well. These plans are connected to the school SIPs. They use data to really identify groups of students who need more support. And then they create lesson plans, whole group, whole class, small group, and individual lesson plans to help them meet their goals. And those goals are then still connected to the SIP.
Any questions from the board?
This is the report required by the statute?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I remember supporting the bill.
Yeah, it's a very exciting bill. I think it's really going to positively benefit our students and really align our work so that a student, they could go to any school that has any counselor and they're going to receive services that really support them and help them be successful in our schools.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you, Casey.
Okay, next is a legislative update.
Is it all me?
The Rob Show.
The work on the legislative committee continued last weekend, and most of the positions have been voted either do pass, do not pass, or without recommendation. I didn't see a lot of positions being proposed that were against the interests of Evergreen. But I think as we get into the fall advocacy, part of the advocacy cycle with the General Assembly and so forth, what is important is that when we have General Assembly, I don't have to be the only one voting. We can, it's a whole day thing. So if you've got an hour or two that you can spot me so that I can walk out in the sun a bit, then let me know so that we can share the load a little bit. I'll have the list of proposed positions in that big book they publish in a couple of weeks. It won't be paper, it will be PDFs, and I'd like to have a conversation in August, if possible, about what it is that we'd like to definitely vote for or definitely oppose and what the priorities ought to be. Last year I did that with Superintendent. I think it'd be a great conversation for the whole board, especially given the work that we're facing.
I really like Tim's idea about going through it as a group and then being able to split it up and being able to vote based off what we had all agreed upon.
It'll make the day much easier. And it's still going to be a remote meeting, so everybody can tune in. Oh, it asked me that part. It's in September sometime. I think it's it's 22 minus 7. It's on the 15th, I think, or the 16th of September. Yeah. I'll ask Lori to get it on our calendar and get the invitations out. And that's pretty much it. We won't be able to have the conversation until we have the book.
All right. Yep. So at this time, that is the last item for our board workshop. So we're going to go ahead and recess and go into our closed session and then into our executive session to review the performance of a public employee, which is expected to last about an hour.